Fun, the sound of joy. It started with a laugh, not a polite chuckle or a forced smile, but a real laugh, the kind that rises from the belly, shakes the shoulders, and fills a room with warmth. That laugh came from Margaret, 72, sitting at her kitchen table with her lifelong friend, June. They were looking through an old photo album, faded edges and all. Every picture carried a memory, and every memory carried a laugh. June pointed to one of them, a picture from 1974. Both women were wearing ridiculous wide-brimmed hats at a summer fair. Margaret burst out laughing so hard she had to put her tea down. "Good Lord," she said, wiping her eyes. "We thought we were fashion icons." June replied, "We were icons. Just a bad taste." And then they laughed again. The hidden medicine in a laughter, as Margaret would later learn, isn't just about joy, it's about survival. After her husband passed 5 years earlier, she went through a long, quiet season, days filled with routine but not much light, evenings spent alone with television reruns that barely made her smile. But when June started visiting again, bringing stories, teasing jokes, and a kind of contagious energy, something inside Margaret shifted. She noticed her sleep improving, her appetite returning, even her arthritis seemed a little less painful. So she asked her doctor one day, half joking, "Do you think laughter's what's keeping me going?" Her doctor smiled. "There's more truth in that than you might think." He explained that laughter lowers stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline, while increasing endorphins, the body's natural painkillers. It boosts circulation, strengthens the immune system, and even improves blood vessel function, all of which help the heart and brain. It turns out every genuine laugh is like a mini workout for the body, a rhythm of oxygen and release, and for Margaret it became her favorite form of exercise. The loneliness that silences laughter. There was a time when she'd forgotten how to laugh. After her husband's passing, the house had become too quiet. Every corner held echoes of a shared joke, now turned into silence. She missed not just his company, but his humor, that playful spark that used to lighten even the hardest days. Research from Brigham Young University found that loneliness is as harmful as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. It weakens the immune system, increases blood pressure, and shortens lifespan. But laughter does the opposite. It connects, softens, and heals. Margaret didn't know the science at the time. She only knew the feeling. Each time she laughed with June, she felt more alive. That's when she began keeping a simple rule for herself: one good laugh a day. It didn't have to be big. Sometimes it came from watching a silly cat video online, or when her grandson called and mispronounced spaghetti as paschetti. Every laugh was a tiny act of resistance, a reminder that she was still here, still capable of joy. The brain on laughter. A few weeks later, Margaret stumbled across an article from Harvard Medical School titled, "Laughter is the Best Medicine." It explained that laughter activates multiple regions in the brain: the frontal lobe for reasoning, the limbic system for emotion, and the motor cortex for movement. In other words, laughter is a full brain workout. Neuroscientists have even found that it increases blood flow to the brain, promotes the release of dopamine, and encourages neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to form new connections. So in a way, every time Margaret laughed, she was literally keeping her brain younger. She shared that fact with June, who simply said, "Well, no wonder we're still so smart. We've been giggling our way to genius all these years." And they both burst into laughter again, finding joy in the ordinary. As winter turned to spring, Margaret began noticing small reasons to smile. The way sunlight hit her teacup in the morning, the sound of children playing down the street, the neighbor's dog chasing its own tail. Laughter had changed her focus. She wasn't looking for what was missing anymore. She was finding what was funny, what was good, what was still here. Psychologists call this positive attentional bias, the mind's shift toward gratitude and humor instead of loss. And it's powerful, because where attention goes, energy flows. The more she laughed, the more she noticed life laughing back. The community of smiles. Eventually, Margaret joined a local laughter yoga group. something she'd never imagined doing in her 70s. The class met every Wednesday morning at the community center. They started each session not with stretches, but with intentional, childlike laughter. At first it felt silly, forced even, but within minutes everyone was genuinely laughing. The fake laughter had turned real. That's the magic of it. The body doesn't know the difference between fake and real laughter. Even pretending to laugh triggers the same feel-good hormones. By the end of each session, Margaret's cheeks ached, her ribs were sore, and her heart felt light. She'd often tell June afterward, "I think we just laughed our wrinkles smooth." The Science of Joyful Aging researchers from Norway's University of Bergen conducted a long-term study on over 50,000 people. They found that those with a strong sense of humor lived longer, especially women. Another study from Johns Hopkins University found that laughter improves short-term memory and reduces the stress response in older adults. So when people say laughter adds years to your life, it's not just a saying, it's evidence. Margaret didn't need a PhD to understand it. She could feel it in her bones, in her lighter steps, in the sparkle returning to her eyes. The moral of Margaret's story. One afternoon, her grandson asked, "Grandma, why do you laugh so much?" She smiled and said, "Because every laugh is a little piece of time I get to keep." He didn't understand fully, not yet. But one day he would, because laughter isn't just noise. It's medicine, it's memory, it's life expanding, one joyful sound at a time. 2. How humor heals the body and the heart. Margaret used to think laughter was something that just happened, something that arrived when life was good. But as she grew older, she learned the opposite was true. Laughter wasn't a result of joy. Laughter was a path to joy. Healing from the inside out. One morning during her usual walk in the park, Margaret stopped to watch a group of children playing tag. They were running in circles, laughing so hard they could barely breathe. It struck her. That kind of laughter, pure and effortless, wasn't just sound, it was health. Later that week, she read a study shared by her doctor from Mayo Clinic. Laughter boosts oxygen intake, stimulates the heart, lungs, and muscles, and increases endorphins, the body's natural mood elevators. But there was something else. After laughter, the body enters a relaxed state. Blood pressure drops, muscles loosen, and the immune system strengthens for up to 45 minutes. Imagine, Margaret thought, one laugh buys me nearly an hour of peace. She began to treat her laughter like vitamins, a daily dose for both body and soul. Humor as the gentle medicine. Her friend June often said, "We can't always fix life, but we can laugh at it." That phrase became their motto. When Margaret's old washing machine broke down mid-cycle and her kitchen floor flooded with suds, she didn't panic. She called June, who arrived holding 2 buckets and a camera. "This is the funniest thing that's happened all week," June declared. They laughed until their stomachs hurt, and by the time they cleaned up, the frustration was gone. It wasn't denial, it was perspective. Humor didn't erase problems, but it softened their edges. Psychologists call this cognitive reappraisal, the ability to reinterpret a stressful event in a lighter way. It's one of the strongest predictors of emotional resilience, especially in older adults. In other words, people who can laugh during hardship recover faster, not just emotionally, but physically. The brain that laughs lasts. Dr. Lee Burke, a researcher at Loma Linda University, once said, "Laughter is the body's built-in mechanism for restoring balance." His studies found that even anticipating laughter, before it happens, can reduce stress hormones by nearly 40%. That means when Margaret and June planned their weekly coffee and comedy sessions, their bodies were already preparing for joy. And when the laughter finally came, their immune cells, called natural killer cells, increased in number and activity. These cells fight off infection and even cancer. It was astonishing to think that 2 women giggling over old photos were, in that moment, strengthening their defenses against disease. Laughter wasn't just medicine, it was prevention. Laughing through loss. Not every day was easy. There were mornings when Margaret missed her husband deeply, the quiet ache of absence still there, steady and familiar. But she learned that laughter and grief weren't enemies. They could coexist. One evening, she visited the cemetery with June. They sat on a bench near the old oak tree, And June, with her usual mischief, said, "If George could see you right now, he'd say, 'Don't stay too long. Dinner's getting cold.'" Margaret burst into laughter, tears still in her eyes. It was a strange, beautiful mix of sadness and humor, and it healed something deep inside her. Because laughter didn't erase love, it honored it. It reminded her that the story wasn't just about loss, but about all the moments that had made life worth missing. The social side of smiles. One of the greatest gifts laughter gave Margaret was connection. After joining her laughter yoga group, she started seeing the same faces every week. People who had once been strangers, but soon felt like family. They shared stories, memories, and moments of pure silliness. At the end of each session, they'd sit in a circle and talk about something that made them smile that week. One woman mentioned dancing alone to old jazz. A man confessed he'd told a terrible joke at church, and everyone laughed anyway. Margaret realized laughter was a bridge between loneliness and belonging, between fear and freedom. Social scientists have long known that laughter creates oxytocin, the bonding hormone. It's the same chemical that builds trust, friendship, and love. So when people laugh together, they aren't just sharing humor, they're sharing healing. A new kind of strength. One day after class, a younger volunteer asked Margaret, "How do you stay so positive all the time?" She smiled and replied, "Oh, I'm not always positive. I just refuse to stop laughing." That line stayed with the young woman. It held a wisdom only age could give. That strength doesn't mean never breaking down. It means knowing how to laugh your way back up. Laughter doesn't deny pain. It transforms it. And for Margaret, that transformation was the secret to living longer and living better. As she got ready for bed that night, Margaret looked in the mirror and said softly to herself, "You made it through another day, and you laughed through it too." Her wrinkles, once symbols of age, now looked like the map of a life well lived. Each one a reminder of moments that had made her smile. And before turning off the light, she whispered, "Maybe laughter doesn't just add years to life. Maybe it adds life to the years." 3. The science of joyful aging. As winter turned into spring, Margaret began to notice something remarkable. Her mornings felt lighter. Her walks seemed longer. Even her aches, those small reminders of time, didn't weigh as heavily. She wasn't just getting through the days, she was living them. And the secret, she realized, wasn't in medicine or money or magic. It was in laughter. Science meets the soul. A study from Harvard Medical School once found that people who maintain a sense of humor into old age live an average of 7.8 years longer than those who don't. Not because laughter stops time, but because it slows what scientists call psychological aging. When the mind stays light, when the heart keeps smiling, the body follows. Another experiment from Norway's University of Bergen revealed that seniors with a strong sense of humor had lower risks of heart disease, dementia, and chronic pain. The researchers called it the longevity of laughter. Margaret simply called it my daily medicine. The body's natural reset button. When we laugh, the body releases a cocktail of endorphins, serotonin, and dopamine, chemicals that reduce pain, stabilize mood, and promote healing. It's the same biological response triggered by exercise or meditation, but laughter is effortless and free. Dr. Michael Miller, a cardiologist at Johns Hopkins, once said, "Laughter activates the same system as aerobic exercise. It relaxes the arteries, improves circulation, and keeps the heart young." That made Margaret chuckle. "I've been exercising all along," she said to June one afternoon, "just without the sneakers." And maybe that was true. Laughter was her form of cardio, and joy, her daily breathwork. Emotional fitness for the later years. There's something else scientists rarely put into numbers: the resilience laughter builds. Aging comes with inevitable losses of friends, roles, sometimes even purpose. But humor gives us the flexibility to adapt. It teaches the brain to pivot, to find light in places that used to feel dark. Dr. Viktor Frankl, the famous psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor, wrote, "Humor is another of the soul's weapons in the fight for self-preservation." For Margaret, it became more than that. It became a ritual of gratitude. When she laughed, she wasn't escaping life. She was saying thank you to it. Thank you for still being here. Thank you for giving me another sunrise, another cup of coffee, another chance to giggle at something silly. Aging with a smile. One morning, the laughter group held a small picnic at the park. Someone brought a speaker and played old swing music. A few of them danced. Margaret, in her wide-brimmed hat, stood watching the sunlight dance on the pond. She felt something warm inside, a quiet, steady contentment. This, she thought, was the secret no one talked about enough. Laughter doesn't deny age. It dignifies it. Because laughter is proof that the spirit hasn't grown old, even if the body has. Reflections in the mirror. Later that evening, Margaret sat in front of her mirror again, the same one she looked into months before. This time, she didn't see wrinkles. She saw stories. Each line was a memory of joy. The wedding toast that made her laugh until she cried. The silly jokes her husband told every Christmas. The countless times she found humor where others found frustration. She realized laughter wasn't about pretending everything was fine. It was about finding meaning even when things weren't. That's what kept her young. Not the absence of sorrow, but the presence of joy. The ripple effect of joy. The laughter didn't stop with her. Her daughter noticed it. Her neighbors felt it. People started saying, "Margaret, you have such a peaceful energy." And she'd smile, replying, "It's not peace, it's playfulness." Because joy, once awakened, spreads like sunlight, quietly but powerfully. A kind word, a shared chuckle, a small act of humor. Each one ripples outward, healing more than we realize. That's how laughter keeps us connected. Not just to others, but to the part of ourselves that never ages. As night fell, Margaret thought of something her husband used to say. Life is too short not to laugh, but long enough to love. And for the first time, she understood. Laughter wasn't just something that extended life. It was something that enriched it, that filled the in-between moments with lightness, resilience, and grace. She closed her eyes, a small smile still resting on her face, and whispered into the quiet room, "Maybe the secret to living long isn't to fight time, but to laugh with it."